Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the 2.1 notes, very first section of our Unit 2 packet. So make sure you have that ready. We're going to fill it out as we go. Let's get started. Alright, so make sure you have the Unit 2 packet. Looks like this on the front. We're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing with negatives, fractions, and decimals. Alright, so new packet, same story, starting with our I can statement. We're going to be looking at some stuff and seeing when we multiply integers, what is happening. So by the end of the notes, we should have been able to develop rules for integer multiplication. I'll write that prettier in a minute. Okay, so develop rules for integer multiplication. But first, there's different ways we see multiplication. Like, it's not always with the little X operand. Sorry, that was the bell. Okay, we see multiplication a bunch of different ways. So using 3 times 4, we can also use the dot. That's the one I use most often. We can use parentheses. So if I see 3 and 4 are touching with parentheses, that means multiplication. There could be parentheses around the 3 and around the 4. You could stack them. Okay. But I'll say parentheses and the dot are what we're going to use most. And I probably will stop using the little multiplication symbol of the X. Okay. So different ways just to show it, just a good reminder that those all mean to multiply. Okay, so we're going to use the table to find -4 times 3, and then, so that's this first table, and then this table is -4 times -3. So I want you to pause the video in a second, take a minute, figure out what's happening. Okay, how am I going from 6 to 3? How do I go from 3 to 0? Continue that pattern to arrive at your answer and see how you got there. So pause the video and try that now. Okay, when you paused and tried it on your own, hopefully what you saw was that I subtracted 3. So 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Then I'm going to keep that pattern going. -3. So we get -3. Subtract 3 again. -6. -9. -12. So it ends up being that -4 times 3 is -12. And we subtracted 3 each time. All right, so same thing on this next table. How do I go from -12 to -8? -8 to -4. Okay, until you get to -4 times -3, and then write about what you did to get to that answer. So pause the video now and try it. So when you paused, hopefully you saw that we're adding 4. So -12 plus 4 is -8. -8 plus 4 is -4. -4 plus 4 is 0. And I already kind of knew that because anything times 0 is 0. Okay, then I'm going to keep adding 4, 8, 12. So we added 4 each time. That's really interesting. So I see that a negative times a positive was a negative, and a negative times a negative ended up being a positive. So let's write about that. So what do you notice about the signs of products whose factors are a positive and a negative? It's like negative 4 times 3. So factors that are a positive and negative. I'm going to try to get better at writing. This is not going awesome. Okay, factors that are a positive and a negative. I'm just going to get up close and personal. Will have a product that is negative. And that was kind of true, right? For negative 1 times 3, 1 was negative, 1 was positive, the answer was negative. Negative 2 is negative, 3 is positive, the answer was negative. So that kind of held true for the other ones, right? So what do you notice about the signs of products whose factors are both negative? So like negative 4 times negative 1 was positive 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 was positive 8. Negative 4 times negative 3 was positive 12. So the product, well, let's say 2 factors. That are both negative have a product that is positive. So that's what we should be seeing. Okay. So we can kind of summarize that even more. It's like a negative and a positive. Those have different signs. So we can generalize that rule about products with different signs. A negative times a negative, those have the same sign. So we can generalize to a rule about products of the same sign. Let's write about that on our next page. So let's generalize those rules so that we can use them. Okay, so make a conjecture, which means to write a rule about the sign of a product whose factors have the same sign. It's like a positive times a positive, a negative times a negative. Okay, so the product of 2 factors with the same sign will be positive. So a positive times a positive is a positive, but also a negative times a negative is a positive. So a little bit easier than our addition rules, right? We don't have to think about what number is bigger. I just gotta look at the signs. Bam. Okay? And what we noticed about 3 times negative 4 was that it was negative. So one's positive and one's negative, and they have different signs, and their answer was negative. So we're going to say factors, oops, sorry, put my finger in front of the camera. The sign of a product whose factors have different signs. So the product of 2 factors with different signs will be negative. So a negative times a positive is negative. Positive times a negative is also negative. Okay, so those are kind of our rules. I'll make me smaller so the page can be bigger. There you go. Okay, so if I'm multiplying 2 numbers and they have the same sign, it's going to be positive. If they have different signs, it's negative. Okay, so when multiplying, integers with the same sign will have a product that is positive. Integers with different signs will have a product that is negative. And I'll make that bigger for you to read better. Okay? So, no more remembering, oh, which one's bigger? Do I subtract? Do I add? I mean, we still got to remember those. But multiplying and dividing, a little bit easier. Okay? So when you multiply, all you're going to do is multiply the numbers and then figure out should it be positive or negative based on the signs of the problem. Okay? So 3 times negative 10. Well, 3 times 10 is 30. One's a positive, one's a negative. Integers with different signs will have a product that is negative. Okay? Negative 8 times negative 4. Well, 8 times 4 is 32. And there's 2 negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive. So it's positive 32. Okay? Negative 9 times negative 7. Okay? 9 times 7 is 63. Now I have to figure out positive or negative. Well, negative times a negative is positive. So it's going to be positive 63, since they have the same sign. Okay? And last but not least, negative 11 times 12. Well, 11 times 12 is 132. One's negative, one's positive. They have different signs, so my answer is negative. All right, here is your 2.1 practice. Okay, level 1, you're just saying when I multiply a positive times a negative, is it positive or negative? What's a positive times a positive? Okay, level 2, you're just going to multiply the numbers, only have to choose 4. Okay, remember that you just multiply the numbers together. If they have the same sign, it's positive. If they have different signs, it's negative. Then level 3, you're going to choose 2 word problems to complete.